On the hunt for new recipes from Grandma's cookbook, we've found another gem. Meatballs filled with cheese and tomato sauce. So if this isn't Grandma, then I don't know what is. Welcome to Kalikocht. We've got 500 grams of mixed ground meat ready to go. A roll. I've soaked it in milk before. For that, we need an egg, salt, pepper, and a bit of nutmeg, which is coming from over here. And we want to have the whole thing in tomato sauce later, as I mentioned before. Diced tomatoes from the pack, a good splash of cream for the spring onions, and a few fresh tomatoes. And what would Grandma's kitchen be if it wasn't filled with cheese and baked on top? Let's start with the ground meat. We'll add our ground meat to a slightly larger bowl. And as I said, this is just a regular roll that I've basically soaked in milk 1-to-1. You would now squeeze out the water. I like to leave the milk in there. It also gives us a wonderful flavor. Now we'll just add the egg on top. Don't skimp on the pepper. We need to be a bit more careful with the salt, but then again, that's 500 grams, so we shouldn't forget that. And then with a clean hand, mix it all together vigorously. There are many recipes on the internet that show cooks adding breadcrumbs to the minced meat. That's really my thing, because it makes the ground meat mixture incredibly firm, since the breadcrumbs basically draw the moisture out of the meat. But we want to add moisture so that we get really nice, juicy meatballs. I'll take a good amount of my ground meat, put the cheese in the middle, and then we can seal it up so that the cheese really stays inside. And like that, a little bit of damp hands helps with that. And just smooth it all out. And just like that, we have a stuffed meatball with cheese. We're going to place our little meatballs in the pan now and fry them until they're golden brown. And I would suggest not using too high heat, because it might happen that a little cheese oozes out here and there. We don't want it to burn. Isn't this really a picture? Like back in Grandma's kitchen. Look how quickly they're getting some color. That's also partly because of the milk that we left in our bread. And we're frying them now, as I said, until they're deliciously browned on all sides. So the meatballs are almost done. Let's quickly chop down the spring onion. And of course it's been washed, and I actually cut it down to the root base. And I keep hearing more and more that the green part on top has to go. But no, dark green part of the spring onion has the most flavor. There's not much in the roots down here. These leftovers from the spring onion, like little roots, don't throw them away. Just toss them into the next vegetable broth. And my little, almost too soft cherry tomatoes are going in there too. And I just cut them into quarters. And I don't bother cutting out the little green part on a cherry tomato. That can definitely stay in for me. What we don't want is for the cheese to keep oozing out here. Let's take them out for a moment. They just need to have a little patience for a moment, my little friends. And now we're adding the spring onions and the tomatoes to our hot pan and briefly sweating them in the little bit of fat that's formed here. And of course that needs to be seasoned with salt and pepper, because all of this here has no flavor at all. That's why we need to bring some serious power to this. And if you like, you can also add a pinch of sugar to take away the acidity of the tomato. Spring onions are almost done. Let's add our diced tomatoes on top. Let's bring that to a boil for a moment. Next, a generous splash of cream. And we'll let it simmer for about 2 to 3 minutes. Unlike my grandmother, I also like to add a bit of oregano and let it simmer together. That way I have just a bit more flair in my sauce. So just back again. Our grated cheese that we have left goes on top. And now it's going to be briefly baked in the oven so that it gets a bit of color. So we're setting this to 250 degrees and only the top heat. After 10 minutes, we have a result here. Just great. We're putting the pan on the table just as it is tonight. But of course we want to present it and show it off. Let's see how the cheese is melting down. Look over there, see? Shall we cut them open? Look how fluffy they are. And there in the middle is that melted cheese. Juicy, right? Oh my God, I'm drooling. Here I have a little cherry tomato. Let's give it a try. It's always the same story. Carmen and I have already shot 760 films. And I've always said this is super tasty. But what am I supposed to do? You can already tell that this must be delicious, right? And simple ingredients. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I wish you all an incredible time recreating this and enjoy your meal. Bye, dear ones.